Hey everyone, welcome back. Today is a different video, and probably the first non-Warframe video I've made in almost 2 years. But don't worry, I'm sure you'll feel right at home as this game has many similar aspects to it. Today, we're looking at the First Descendant. Nexon has given me a chance to get an early hands-on preview of their latest build ahead of the CROSSPLAY open beta starting September 19th. Don't worry, this video will answer all of your questions, as well as what has changed since last year's beta. And no, this is not sponsored. So let's talk about what is the First Descendant, and the upcoming open beta, release info, and business models. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty on my experience of the preview build, what to expect when you play, and finally, my thoughts. The First Descendant is a third-person co-op looter shooter running on Unreal Engine 5. If you played games like Destiny or Warframe before, the overall structure of gear progression and gameplay should feel somewhat similar to you. It's also a third-person hero shooter with unique abilities per character. Players are the chosen Descendants whose duty is to protect humanity against the ongoing onslaught of the Vulgus, alien invaders attacking continental Ingress. Instead of a skill tree system, Descendants use a module system to equip your weapons and arch with cutting-edge effects to increase your combat capabilities. Boost your loadout even further with the brand new Reactor system. How all of your gear comes together will be explained in a bit, because a ton has changed since last year's beta. You'll be able to experience all of this in the upcoming CROSSPLAY open beta beginning on September 19th. It runs until midnight into the 26th, giving an entire week to try out all the new content, new Descendants, new features, and gear. It will be available on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. Adding friends and a party request can be done via your platform's friend list, but also by interacting with players in the world. I'll be streaming it myself on Twitch, so make sure to tune in since we will also have exclusive Twitch drops to jumpstart your journey and save Ingress. Full release schedule depends entirely on feedback from this beta, so I can't say when we will see the game finished, but if I had to guess, a very low chance of this winter and a decent chance for spring/summer 2024. And no, progression from this beta will not carry over into final release. However, the final release will also have full cross-save progression across platforms. There are currently no plans to introduce the First Descendant to Steam Deck or GeForce now, but that could change in the future. Let's get the next big question out of the way, especially for those of you coming from Destiny or Warframe. How are the microtransactions in this game? What is the business model? Good news, even in the latest dev talks, they have confirmed the game will be free to play. But of course, there's going to be a cash shop, right? Right? Well, that's where it's going to be similar to Warframe. They have also mentioned that the cash shop is going to be focused on cosmetics, which will not have any combat-related stats and possible productivity boosts such as EXP gain modifiers. Because this game is all about collecting multiple Descendants and gear and trying what you like, and has a hard level cap of 40 per character and weapon with prestige systems available, EXP gain modifiers will not allow you to power creep free-to-play players. In fact, they have so far promised all gear, Descendants, and modules will be farmable in-game. Will they stay true to this? Only time can tell, but they have given us their word. It's up to them to stick to it. There will also be a free battle pass, and undecided if a paid version will be available in the future. There are no current plans to implement PvP, as they have stated this is going to be a PvE-centric game. So what else has changed since last year's beta? The first thing I noticed was the game optimization. Last year, I couldn't even get the game to run at 60 FPS at 1440p on medium settings off stream with nothing else open. Streaming my output connection to 936p was quite the hurdle and barely scraped above 30 FPS with noticeable dip in many areas. I was and am still using an i9-900K and a 2070 Super from last year's stream. The new preview build was significantly smoother and also offers Nvidia's DLSS and AMD's FSR to upscale as needed. This time, I was on high settings and easily maintained 60 FPS off stream. Not perfect, but good enough. With DLSS set to balanced, I was hovering around 80 to 100 FPS off stream. More optimization would be nice, but understandably the 2070 Super is starting to become a bit of a dated card, and while still an excellent choice for 1080p gaming, is pushing its limits somewhat at 1440p while also outputting to stream. Overall, the game has become significantly more playable, enjoyable, and also watchable. This is a huge plus and one of the biggest issues from last year solved. We also have new info on the Descendants roster. The final count is now known. Next, it intends to ship the initial release with 15 Descendants and 5 Ultimate variants at this point in time. Ultimate Descendants are basically cosmetically different versions. It is unknown at this time if Ultimate Descendants will have any significant stat differences on final release. The CROSSPLAY beta will have 2 new Descendants, Valby and Kyle, and Ultimate Viessa, the new Snow Queen, has also been added for a total of 11 Descendants and 2 Ultimates. Valby's kit focuses on applying the laundry debuff on enemies as well as moderate ability damage. All abilities make pools of water that damage enemies but also decrease her cast costs for standing in them. Laundry also makes them significantly more susceptible to electric damage and moderately to fire damage. Her first ability launches blobs, which honestly have decent coverage, albeit affected by terrain. Fast cast with shorter cooldown. Her second ability is basically just a teleport, making puddles where you came from and where you go. Mostly utility for getting out of tight spots, I guess? Her third turns her into the Silver Surfer, gliding through enemies and doing a fair amount of damage. Pretty solid mobility tool with speed buffs. Her fourth ability swaps out your weapon to lob big water bombs for damage, leaving behind sphere damage over time that suspends enemies. A bit of crowd control too. Fun stuff. She feels more like a weapon support Descendant to me with crowd controlling, debuffing, and using mobility tools to your advantage to get a better angle for your shots. For other new Descendant, Kyle, he is the game's version of Iron Man. Featuring a unique magnetic force bar to cast ability, Kyle converts shields into a special energy bar to power his third and fourth abilities. That's right, he has no actual normal mana pool at all. You will definitely want to build shields and defense on him. His first ability can chain punches and benefits hugely from cooldown reduction. Each hit has a small AoE and grants quite a bit of magnetic force for his third and fourth ability. His second ability is somewhat lackluster, but is a good spot shield to get out of bad spots. It blocks pretty much almost all damage, but requires shields to use, so it's not that much better than getting your shields shot, but it's still useful though, as it converts damage taken into more magnetic force. His third ability? If you've ever played Warframe, you'll know what Rhino's Iron Skin is. This turns your magnetic force bar into a new layer of health. Until it is depleted, you cannot take any damage, and when it runs out or you deactivate it manually, it explodes for even more damage. Quite a bit of it actually. But you know what's even more damage? The Superman landing from his fourth ability. This thing destroys whatever you land on. Kyle was definitely my preferred choice over Valby, as he let me get close and personal with the Vulgus, not worrying about mana management, and just punching everything down if I was low on ammo. Elites? Well, just use your fourth and slam them into the ground, watch them explode instantly. If anything, you could even say this is reminiscent of the Titan Hulk smash, or the panic button as we would say from Destiny. What else has changed? Plenty more. We got a new starting screen now with a new beginning quest. Story has more context and we get a better tutorial. Most importantly, the grapple hook was reworked to be a lot smoother. I could feel it immediately compared to last year, as it is less floaty and more direct. The directional physics were also tighter. While it reduces the freedom of launch velocity shenanigans despite awkward physics last year, you can reach a destination you want much more reliably. Holding left or right will also swing you around your target, letting you grapple sides of pillars and buildings with ease for momentum. Also, the double hop at the end of every grapple, yeah, that annoying thing is gone. The next item is perhaps the biggest quality of life change since last year. They have completely overhauled the user interface for the modding system as well as the NPC responsible for enhancing mods. It is no longer the grayscale, plain Jane and boring system like last year. The UI is much more colorful and more responsive. More mods are visible on the screen at once. More information is available at your fingertips, while also being more pleasant to the eyes. The actual modding system has also been overhauled, with the Rune system being completely scrapped. Previously, you would use mod cards to create a loadout for each of the 5 different rune loadouts. Different kinds of weapons would pull from different runes, such as scout rifles using wave runes. This was needlessly confusing because 1, you had to remember which rune loadouts corresponded to what kind of guns, and 2, there were no configuration slots for a rune loadout, which means if you wanted to use a fire scout rifle setup instead of an electric one, you would have to go and change your wave rune mod loadout every time. Now, you apply mods directly to the weapon loadout itself instead of runes. This removes the confusing rune system while also allowing you to have designated builds. Have a special scout rifle that works well with an electric-based Descendants? Well, you can pull out that scout for them, but use a different scout for everyone else, say with a heat build. This becomes more prominent with the 11 new legendary tier weapons, where they have unique effects that can synergize with specific elements or kits. One other very important change has also occurred. We've gained even more mods with varying effects and stat scaling, but to curb the absurd damage scaling of last year's builds during beta, all mods are now categorized into specific groups, seen at the bottom of the mod. You can only equip one of that group on the current build. If I already have an attack group mod on this weapon, then I cannot equip another one. Ungrouped mods do not have this limit. Skill augments, on the other hand, if you're looking at Descendants, those completely alter the functionality of our abilities, and these fit only into the skill slot, so you can only run one skill augment at a time. But one nice touch are these green dots. When you equip a mod that alters a stat on an ability or an augment that changes functionality, a dot or, well, the entire ability turning green appears after saving the loadout. This gives you an idea on which ability scale with skill power, range, duration, cascots, or other unique stats. A new piece of gear called the Reactor has also been added to the game. They come with their own beneficial stats as well as special effects if you can meet the criteria of equipping a specific weapon type or named legendary weapon. More importantly, the Reactor was added to separate Descendant ability scaling from weapon damage. Last beta, abilities scaled off of your currently equipped weapon in combat for the majority of their DPS, using the gun's crit, damage, and elemental mods. This led to ridiculous scaling and power creep that has, well, been curbed back. Now, skills have their own critical stats and damage in the form of skill power scaling from your Descendants' own mods instead. The Reactor provides a base level of skill power as well for this. Another prominent piece of content in the First Descendant are the Colossi fights. These are arena encounters with Titan-sized bosses. Each one features their own mechanics, and your goal is to take them out within the allotted time. When I was playing the preview, it appeared some of the Colossi were rebalanced to be more fair compared to last beta, so if you recall getting instantly blown up by Pyromaniac's flamethrower from halfway across the map, that's been toned down. Of course, Colossi are still extremely dangerous, and you need to know how to counterplay, such as equipping burn immunity against Pyromaniac. We have 2 new arenas to fight these bosses in, which honestly look significantly better than the original arenas, and you can use these floating platforms and elevations as well as height differences to better approach their fight mechanics and deal with their weak points. One has more cover and is smaller, whereas the other is much more vast but has the equivalent of lava floors that slowly damage you if you stand in them. The Hanged Man is a brand new Colossi being added to this upcoming beta, but because it requires 3 people queued to fight, I was unable to experience it during the preview. The Colossi I could fight though are the same as last year's roster, and I did not notice a significant change in their mechanics. And for those of you that played last year's beta, now I know after all of these modding changes, you might be concerned on whether or not Iron Man Bunny still works. While we don't have the pretty red crits anymore, I can absolutely tell you yes, she is still very much alive. I got builds you'll be seeing day 1 beta for our favorite electric bunny, optimized for the new modding system, so stay tuned for that. We also finally get a closer look at the cosmetic system. While you cannot color each component of the body separately, there are separate color channels for the helmet versus body. 6 color channels overall that you can try with, well, a vast array of colors. There are many skins to choose from, and some of which will be obtainable from farming in-game or events. Some may be from the cash shop, but we don't know which ones currently. You can mix and match helmets and bodies, except the ones that are full suit, as well as mix matching colors. And also, these Ecives? Ecives things. They're projections above your head, so kind of think of extra detailing, essentially. And we also have spawn and animations that are customizable. I imagine these will come from the cash shop, season events, and battle pass. It's honestly a pretty decent initial showing of cosmetics customization and reminds me of Warframe's fashion. The only missing part are armor attachment cosmetics, but I have no idea if we will see that in the future or not. There is also a brand new Sterile Lands map area with repurposed assets from the previous desert map last year. It's more compact, with new content to try out, but this brings me into the next part of the video. While the dev team have promised live service updates with the future season challenges of higher difficulty content and larger scale raids with the mechanics, it also remains to be seen what we will get. The current endgame progression is still hard mode void intercept Colossi fights, and higher level wave-based world missions you can select from the map. I remain concerned about the overworld though, as it is completely devoid of enemies until you start a beacon mission. Free roaming everywhere just isn't a thing. So long as the player population remains high and there are those in your instance, then you will be able to find ongoing beacon missions you can join in on by shooting spawned enemies, or you can just start it yourself. But, well, if you're in a quieter instance, without other player parties running beacon missions, then all you will hear are crickets. I'm hoping in the future enemies will be present on the map naturally in areas, and starting beacon missions just despawns them in the instance for mission specific enemies and encounters. It makes the open world feel more alive when you're doing your free roaming. Now, no game is perfect, and during the preview build I also noticed some issues. While notable frame drops here and there, particularly in encounters with higher number of enemies, the optimization definitely helped. But enemy density appears to be still taxing on the engine, and this would also sometimes result in what can only be described as leg switching enemies. They're in one place, then they're about a foot in another direction. It makes it a bit hard to aim at them, but it only happens in fights with a lot of enemies. There are also a couple of UI bugs here and there, but that is to be expected during the massive UI overhaul. Particularly in the mod upgrade screen, the menu is not always responsive, and trying to upgrade may take more clicks than expected. Enemy animations for combat, on the other hand, their fluidity is pretty decent, but when they jump to balconies in combat, can be jarring. I do think the UI for modding can still be improved further though. Currently, the sort function on equipment modding screens can only be sorted by module, shape, enhancement level, name, mod tier, etc. What I would really like to see is being able to sort by module category as well, such as battle modules, attack modules, medical modules, support modules, arc-tech modules. This is important because of the new category rule allowing you to only equip one of each kind on a build. Sifting for specific mod categories is currently cumbersome. Likewise, the search bar and module inventory screen and equipment modding screens is very useful. For some reason, the search bar is absent at the NPC you speak to when leveling up mods. It should be added, as I already have to go to a specific NPC to level up my mods, which is a bit weird, as any non-equipped mod you want to upgrade requires extensive scrolling or sorting at this NPC. Due to the changes in mod scaling and decoupling of Descendant abilities from scaling off weapons, certain stats, such as ability crit chance, are no longer efficient to build for. The skill crit mods are too weak to be useful since Descendants start with only base 10% crits on their skills. I'd be interested in seeing increased ability crit scaling baselines or stronger crit scaling buffs from Descendant modules, or just more set effects or perks in the future. Otherwise, it's really not worth using critical mods for abilities at this point in time. The audio is pretty good, but needs some rebalancing. Sound effects of weapons are insanely loud for no reason. Dare I say, even louder than Apex. I had to set it to 1 or 2 out of 10 to be tolerable and hear other things going on in the game. The menu sounds for Descendant preview screen is also way too loud. You can hear their dialogue lines starting, but then their abilities and entrance animations completely drown everything else out while also being overwhelmingly loud compared to everything else in the game. Certain cutscenes either need more music or louder music, but where I think they nailed the sound is combat ambience.
With my strength, I will pull everything towards me, even the final victory.
There's generally a single main track for a map area. Entering and exiting combat scales the track up or down from a full orchestral body to just the skeleton crew elements, making combat feel much more alive and dynamic. Those were the main things that stuck out to me for audio. On the good side of things, the game looks amazing. That's Unreal 5 for you. Lighting has definitely improved since last year with more lighting sources and improved shadows. The game on lower settings no longer looks half-baked, as previously certain parts of the map looked like I was playing desaturated Fortnite on low settings due to lighting source issues. For player controls, they remain mostly the same with a rather fast run speed that makes me think we won't need mounts. Overworld isn't that big and consists of semi-closed maps similar to Destiny, but even smaller since we cannot directly run into other zones without using the world map teleports. The biggest improvement was absolutely the grapple hook, and I like its current iteration significantly more. Slightly more arcadey, but you go where you expect. And, well, no double hop at the end either that could send you off cliffs in the original beta. And you can still eat yourself with directional controls mid-grapple. The story is still in production, so I cannot comment on it as much. I was also more focused on seeing gameplay changes this year, as well as the user interface overhaul, so I was not able to spend as much time comparing story. They did add a new introductory quest to give background on our characters, and they also added a new perspective regarding our motivations to save Ingress, led by the titular guide contrasting our duty to protect as Albion soldiers, leading to some internal conflict. But honestly, I didn't see that much. Expect the player character to play a bigger role than just the story lying in the background though compared to last year. Replayability wise at the moment, there seems to be quite a lot of content to do and grind. Don't get me wrong, the game is quite grindy. You will want to level out your desired Descendants to play and collect the rest. You'll be re-leveling your favorite gear to unlock matching socket types to reduce the equip cost of modules, letting you bring even stronger setups into battle. You'll be farming for the parts to craft the other Descendants, chasing ultimate variants, legendary weapons, and farming their parts, finding new gear pieces and reactors to min-max build perks and skills, and just learning how the build system works with modules. That said, there is no true endgame content available just yet in this upcoming beta, but they did say the final release will include a season schedule, with future season challenges of higher difficulty content, and larger scale raids with mechanics. That will probably fill the gap to scratch that itch for a higher level team play and strategies some players might want. My personal opinion? The game needs more polish, but it has come a long way since last year. There's a lot of potential and they're doing a better job of realizing it. What I need you to do is come try the game out on the 19th and tell me what you think. We'll be able to give a better opinion to the devs on how the game can become even greater, because if there's one thing for sure, they have been doing the betas right and improving based off of feedback. Better yet, there are even sign-up rewards for the CROSSPLAY open beta. If you pre-register through the official homepage, which I have in the description and pinned comment below, you can get 3 full body skins for the 3 basic Descendants you start the game with during the beta period. Also, anyone who participates in the beta will also receive a limited edition emote on final release, and a special backpack, cosmetic to anyone who reaches at least Descendant level 20 during the beta. Well, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully I'll see you all on the battlefield. Remember to stop by on the 19th for your exclusive Twitch drops on my stream. I'll be live and ready for the beta countdown. Links are down in the description and pinned. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible. Like this insider scoop on the First Descendant preview before the open beta releases. You don't miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.